Darren Woodard is co-founder and broker of Innovate Real Estate. His brokerage services the coastal South Carolina area. Darren, I'm curious, how did you get started in real estate?
Yeah, it was 2004 when the market was really good. People were telling me how much money they were making, and I had just come out of college, and I always tell people I was unhireable. So I went and created what a lot of people say is the least expensive way to create your own business, and that's getting into real estate,
What did you study in college?
finance and economics.
Okay, so what led you to decide to seek out real estate rather than go into finance?
Um, I live in the Myrtle Beach area, it was either move to Charlotte or move to New York to get what I really wanted to do. Or you could be a financial advisor, but that's sales as well.
Yeah.
So the last guy that told me to go get the last financial advisor position I seeked out, the gentleman asked me to get 2 years sales experience or go get some sales experience, and that was his way of not hiring me. So then I went into real estate.
Okay. So do you remember where you got your first deal from?
Yeah, so I was bartending, and my wife's aunt, she was actually over at our house yesterday for Mother's Day. She had a lot that she wanted to sell. I wasn't ready to engage with my license, but it pushed me 2 or 3 months prior to when I was going to, I was going to work out the summer season bartending, but it pushed me to go ahead and activate my license and get that lot listed.
Okay, very cool. So then from 2004 to today, 2024, that's 20 years. How has your real estate career evolved? When you first entered the space, were you on a team or did you start out solo?
When I started, there was really no such thing as a team. I mean, that was before we were even using. When I first started, we were training people on a system called Paragon, where people pull their listings into that had just came out. Prior to that, it was basically books or flyers, and that's how you promoted your listings. So yeah, there was really no team. It was just me, a phone book, and my sphere of influence.
Yeah, yeah. So then when did you decide to open Innovate?
So it kind of evolved to us moving to another brokerage. Well, I moved to another brokerage that my partner moved to probably 4 months prior than I did. And he and we've done SEO work for ever since 2006. Actually, I did one of these with Real Geeks recently, and I was been with them for 14 years. So we were generating all of our own leads organically. So we partnered up under that brokerage. Probably about 5 months later, we realized how much we were bleeding financially with just paying the brokerage. So we went and I think there was 6 of us that left and started. Back then, it was called Beach Realty Group. This Innovate thing just launched in March in Charlotte. So we're actually open in 5 different states right now on the Southeast: Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and North Carolina. Once we moved into Greensboro, North Carolina was our first market away from the coast. We dropped Beach Realty Group and went with BRG Real Estate. For 2 years, it stood for bold, reliable, groundbreaking. Agents in these different markets really didn't know who we were. On the coastal South Carolina and Myrtle Beach area, we're actually the #1 independent brokerage here, so people knew who we were here. But we rebranded everything March 5th of this year, 2024.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, congrats. I didn't realize it was that recent. So how did you decide to expand beyond where you are now? And how do you even start doing that? How do you start expanding?
January 1st, well, first of all, it was just us, 4 of us under leadership. Now we're at 7 of us on leadership, and we meet weekly and have discussion every Tuesday from 8:30 to 10. We have our quarterly meeting tomorrow, where we meet all day in a room and discuss issues. One of the things that we did is we brought on a very well versed into the real estate market, has been doing it with large brokerage up in the Northeast and was moving to the Myrtle Beach area. She is our expansion director now. So,
Okay.
currently she's looking on finding a leader in Charlotte. So what we do is we find a leader in that market that wants to work on a commission-based growth model to help them evolve.
Okay. So then what you mentioned you have a 7-person leadership team. Who are those 7 people? What are their roles?
We got a head of brokers, head of training, myself and Jeff Castellan's my partner that started this with us. So basically he's the visionary, I'm the integrator within the system. And we have the finance team and the expansion director and then marketing director.
Okay. So then underneath the 7 leadership, do you have other full-time staff?
Yes, we do. We have onboarding, we have training. Abril does a lot of our training. I don't know if you've met her or not, but she's been dealing with a lot of the stuff you and I would go over with getting the agents in tune to the systems, the action plans, you know, how it all works together. We have somebody as a director of, well, not really director of operations, but executive assistant to operations. Lisa now in the marketing, we've got a 2-person team with that as well. We've got broker, because we have some agents in the Myrtle Beach area. We've broken off, so it's basically like a mentor / broker agents that's under the broker in charge to help agents with productivity, questions, contract issues.
Okay. So then as it stands today, how many agents do you have in the brokerage?
254.
Okay. I think I forgot that. So, all right.
Well, yeah, it's one of our measurables that we go over weekly is, you know, how are we, and obviously with things, sometimes it's the flow of people in and out, and that's the onboarding and offboarding piece that we're currently working on after the rebranding.
So since you offer this level of support with all of these full-time staff and leadership positions, would you consider yourself operating more of as a teamerage rather than a traditional brokerage? Are you holding your agents accountable to a certain standard to be able to remain in the brokerage?
Yes, so we kind of, when we were bringing on the onboarding and expansion, one of the issues that we had is the training and the amount of time, energy, and dollars that goes into training. So we've kind of drawn it back as far as who we want at the brokerage. We don't just want anyone with polls. We want people that are engaging. As far as holding them accountable, I think the real estate industry in general does that with expenses and stuff like that, that people have to endure. And if they're not doing anything, we have some that on time to time, we either ask them to go to another brokerage or to, you know, hang on a referral program that we have in office. But that's just because we want agents that are together doing more deals. We feel like that agents that are doing more deals or being around other people thrive much better in that environment.
Okay. So earlier you mentioned you generate your own leads. You mentioned Real Geeks. I think you have maybe 1 or 2 other websites. Would you be open to sharing, is Real Geeks your main source of leads, or do you generate leads elsewhere?
So yeah, that's a great question. So we actually, you were a big part of the process along with 3 or 4 other softwares that we were bringing in with the rebranding. So for about 2.5 years, we used KV Core as a company. Didn't really like it. I know these some of these larger brokerages are bringing it on nationwide, but it's very cumbersome. We couldn't even train ourselves to help agents use the system. And with that, we switched over. We do what's called a 90-day rock within the company, and it's a goal to get something done in 90 days. And my rock that I have to report on tomorrow is getting rid of KV Core. So with that, we replaced it with Constellation One is the website, because we look for somebody who could build a brokerage site that we can scale in different areas and have it easy to set up with the MLS and, you know, things like that. They're working on the integration with me right now for Follow Up Boss, but with Follow Up Boss, we want to use that as the main hub for all these different markets. And I'm working on how to get those to go to that hub and go to Knoxville, Tennessee, or Tampa, Florida, or, you know, one of these different markets. The action plans with you guys have been very beneficial, and we'll go over some of that. We also picked up Real Scout, so that was kind of our way of me as I still run my own team. For about 2 years, I used Y Loco. As far as Real Geeks, we've just had that site forever. I mean, and I'm not going to let that go because it's got over 32 100 pages of neighborhood content and then 700 area pages in 5 different states, you know, whether it's Orlando, Florida, or Nashville, Tennessee. It's got all this content, and all that does is churn with the search engines. And so we do generate leads in that area. My challenge right now is I'm manually going in there and reassigning those leads in those different markets outside of the Myrtle Beach area. So
Interesting. Well, I would have thought that's another conversation. I know we get sidetracked, but I would have thought that would be possible with the integration Real Geeks has, is to be able to label where people are coming from so they can go to the right person automatically.
Yeah, the challenge I'm having with them on there, I don't know how, I know you're very familiar with Follow Boss, is that when they're signing up, it's just going on the right-hand side right now. It needs to go into that box there in the middle so that it will tag them with the city that they're in. And now with that tag, I can get them into the group. So it can go to those different areas. So that's what we're working on right now.
Okay. So what led you to decide to choose Follow Up Boss?
I've been using it for 2 years on my team. Really loved it. I love the accountability feature. I love that you got the leaderboard in there and you can see that. And the ease of use is, I mean, it's a no-brainer. And
does your brokerage use Follow Up Boss, and do you plan for all of the branches to use Follow Up Boss?
We've launched Follow Up Boss for the whole company. Now we do have some teams that might be still using Sync and love that, or might be using something else and still love that. They're welcome to use whatever they want, but we do have it here. We have a brokerage account, and they have been amazing with the customer service, getting everybody onboarded. Okay.
So then you mentioned you love Follow Up Boss. You used it for 2 years for your own personal team before you launched it for the company. So since you loved it so much, I'm curious, what problems were you experiencing with Follow Up Boss where you were looking for outside help to solve?
That's actually a great question. I was thinking about that this morning. My team at our team meetings, they were wanting me to create these action plans. And I did 3, and it took me 4 days to do 3, I think, and they weren't good. So I went on to the Follow Up Boss community on Facebook, and I didn't ask the question, but I searched the question about action plans, and that's how I found you. Must have been about 30 people reply, and like at least 20 were all recommending you.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned you set up 3. So what's different between then and now that's set up in your Follow Up Boss account?
Well, I think you dropped a lot in there. Your company dropped a lot in there to help out. I don't even know what the 3 that I created were, but I'm sure one was a new buyer. One was haven't heard from you in a while, and one was for a seller. But yeah, that with your what do you call it, non-responsive plan, my agents use that. I put 20,000 people in that I've had over the last 15 years, and really got people to say no, leave me alone, which you're just really searching for that one yes, and you're just filtering through that database. That one's helpful. The one that you've got for back to website, that's amazing. The way that engages, and they come back in there. And me personally, I've rolled it into Texting Betty, where we offer the agents at Innovate the ability to do that. There is a fee for Texting Betty because it gets expensive with the Twilio account tied into, because there's a charge for that, and then there's a charge per 1,000 or something like that, 3,000 texts that you send out with Texting Betty. But yeah, I mean, just bringing those all together, and I'm still learning more on the engagement. Abril's teaching the agents how to do that. If they've got a lead flow, they need to tell us from a corporate standpoint. They don't have access. Agents don't have access to the lead flows or the automations. So if they got a lead flow and automation that they need, we at the company level have to put that action plan in place for them.
Okay. So you mentioned you use Real Scout now. So can you share how that ties into your current database, and how it ties into automation in Follow Up Boss?
Yeah, so that's part of that link that I need fixed for Real Geeks, because that also goes into Real Scout. So in our platform, we've got two tags. One of them is Auto Nurture, and one of them is FUB_Real Scout. We use those, and those when you tag a new lead, or you can mass tag them, and they've done a search on the right hand side as a buyer, it will pop into Real Scout, and it will click on that Auto Nurture automatically if that data's in that middle section I'm telling you about. So right now it's working with Sierra Interactive very well. It's not working as well with Real Geeks, and we're working with them to fix that issue. Now, you got the seller address on the left-hand side below their name. Those two tags will bring them in there and start engaging with them to receive home valuations on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what is Auto Nurture, for those who don't know?
I mean, it's a newer feature for Real Scout, because our expansion director apparently has been using Real Scout since 2018 with a previous company. And this Auto Nurture is really cool, because it takes them in there, and it will engage with them on how they view the properties and what they respond to, and then update that information for them. And then through Real Scout, it sends them an email. For example, I had one that went out the other day, and it said, "Hey, Susie, here's 3 properties on a corner lot." And then it described a little bit about the properties. And I'm really blown away that this lady engaged, and this knows that she wanted a corner lot, and how that all put that together. And then it sends them an email that looks like it's coming directly from you. So to me, we used to spend an hour, in the MLS looking up these properties for somebody. It's doing your work for you.
That's great. That's cool that it caught up on that. I think it's what they call like the natural language model or something like that, where it catches trends of keywords that they're looking for. So going back to your Follow Up Boss setup, what results have you seen so far? I know you mentioned you get responses from some of the action plans. What about like your day-to-day workflow and your agent's day-to-day workflow for using Follow Up Boss?
Yeah, they so there's a smart list that you guys created. So they basically go through the smart list every day and see how those are, and the inbox that ties in there, because a lot of these text and email responses go right into there. It's not cluttered up in your email and you're missing it somewhere. It's just right there at your fingertips. So it's been, the agents on my team love it. We probably still only have about 30–40% of the agents in the company using it. And it's just because we had Real Geeks as our CRM to start with. Then we went to KV Core, and now 2 years later we created our own tech stack to basically, well, we didn't create it. We went to different folks and put one together that agents are able to use. I was just speaking with the agent right before this that I've known. He was one of my mentors at a previous company, so I've known him 20 years when I first got into business. Now he's with Innovate, and I was kind of engaging with him. So we're doing one-on-ones with our agents, trying to get them engaged into this because we're not, unless something really crazy happens, plan on changing anything for a while.
Yeah, that's good. Speaking of, I just remembered, because you use Texting Betty. Did you see the announcement? Texting Betty is now part of the all-in-one inbox with Follow Up Boss. And if you just email support, they can help set that up for you.
What is it called? Because I got an email about the inbox apps.
Yeah,
Ylopo
Ylopo, but also Texting Betty now too. So if you reach out to support at Texting Betty, then you'll start to see the conversations in your inbox and Follow Up Boss rather than just the smart lists.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll do that right when we get off this call.
Yeah, I meant to send an announcement on Friday and I forgot, so I'll send one out. So then remind me, when did you launch the setup of the action plans and automations and all of that?
With myself, it was probably November, December. With the company, it was right after our conference in March.
Okay.
Because I needed to be able to test and do different things and stuff. So for agents to be able to use them, it was in March.
So since November, December, then March, what has our support been like for you?
Oh, it's been amazing. Yeah. I mean, you guys get to us right away.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm used to dealing with for two years, like people, I would put a message on the what do you call it? The little chat down there at the bottom. And if I was lucky, the next day, 24 hours later, and sitting on my computer, I would get a response. But no, you guys have been awesome.
That's great to hear. So, last question as we wrap up the conversation.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear one strategy or lesser known tip you've implemented for your brokerage. This could be something that's had an impact on your lead management, client retention, business growth, or overall sales. What is one little tidbit that you'd be open to sharing?
Well, for the last 5 years, I say I've been creating leads since 2006, but for the last 5 years, all I hear people leaving another brokerage and coming over is, do you provide leads? And, to me, I look for a prospect. So what we've put together with us, with this stack of technology and ability for agents to do that, you can find somebody in a grocery store and convert them a year later without them even knowing that you're doing that. You're taking your sphere of influence or your database and you're looking for hand raises. If as a company, would you prefer 100 leads that you're calling and you get, as Tom Ferry says, you get 1 out of 50. So you call 100 people, you get two yeses that ultimately might be maybe 2 years down the road. Or would you like 10 people that 5 of them are raising their hands and saying, hey, I'd like to have a conversation about buying or selling a house? And that to me is what we've really put together as agent engagement.
That's good. Chasing activity rather than just chasing leads is how some people say. So you can better identify who to reach out to. Awesome. Well, thank you, Darren. I really appreciate the insight, and I'm sure people will find this very helpful. There's lots of noise out there of what technologies to use. Like you mentioned, you've tried 2 CRMs, other teams are using other CRMs and websites. So I'm glad you've landed at a tech stack you're comfortable in and confident in. And just thank you for sharing your journey.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Thank you, Darren. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.